I'm here with Kyle of Wake to talk about Through Form Descent out July 22nd on Metal Blade Records. How is this fellow Canuck doing today?
I'm doing pretty great, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's nice to have another Canadian on the channel to talk about some death metal, to talk about some great music in an upcoming insane album. How excited are you guys to finally get this bad boy out there?
Pretty damn excited, man. It's been almost a year coming now. I mean, since we started writing, probably a year. We recorded it in September, the very end of September. So we've been sitting on it for quite a while. We're really looking forward to it finally coming out.
Do you see any changes in the creative process coming into this album when you look back at the previous records, or is everything staying pretty much the same?
I mean, like the process, like the writing process is pretty much the same, but like every other Wake record, there's just a little bit more going into it than the last one. And it's a little bit more expansive.
You guys keep adding pieces to it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So like when you look at the sound of the band now and you look at the sound of the band across the previous albums, are you guys never satisfied with what the sound of the band is?
Not so much that we're never satisfied, because we're always quite satisfied when we actually, get a record out, and we're always satisfied with those records. But I think it's, we just don't want to tread the same territory. We just don't want to do the same thing over and over again, because it gets tiring.
When you look at that diversity, what becomes the common denominator?
I think I don't know. I think just wanting to expand more and just wanting to try different things. I mean, if we were still writing grind songs like we were 10 years ago, I mean, I don't know, we'd probably still be doing the same things, playing basement shows. I mean, which we still do, but I think it would have been more or less the same thing. I mean, as a band, we need that to grow.
Do you look at the band as a group of guys who, when it comes to the music that you create, you live perhaps outside of the boundaries of just a single genre?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to pigeonhole Wake as one specific genre. I mean, back Devouring Room, people were like, oh, they're kind of Black Death now. And then with Thought Form Descent, I mean, I have no idea what to call it.
I've listened to the album multiple times. I still don't know what, if I was working at HMV back in the day, I wouldn't know album, like, where do you put it? Like, there's so many different facets of this record from start to finish that gives you such a complex journey. Is that the way you guys approach not just your own music, but how you approach art and the art that you consume as well as individuals?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we all listen to such a wide variety of music. Like there's pretty much not a genre of music that somebody Wake doesn't listen to. So that definitely goes into it. I think it's just, yeah, I mean, right now we've kind of exhausted a lot of the corners of extreme metal. So we're just kind of like going wherever we take us, I guess.
Do you put any consideration whatsoever when you're working on a new record in terms of how that record then is going to be able to be performed live, or is that the furthest away from your mind when it comes time to put an album together?
I think it's kind of furthest away. I mean, obviously we want to recreate live what we put on the record, but for the most part, the record is an experience as well as the live show is an experience.
Listen to this album. I was expecting the album to be a little bit more unforgiving, considering the past history of the band, but I felt like you guys created some nice pockets of self-reflection. I'm going to call it self-reflection because it actually allowed me to kind of think a little bit. Is that an important aspect for the listeners so that you allow us to better digest an album from start to finish and not just looking at individual songs?
I mean, I'm going to try to answer this question as much as I understood it. I think, actually, you know what? I don't really know what to say. I don't really understand the question very well.
No, I found that the album had some interesting moments that allow the listener to almost catch your breath, if you will, for a lack of a better term. There's some pockets that you're left alone with your own thoughts, but then afterwards, the music is so unforgiving that there's no time for you to even think. So are those pockets there on purpose?
Not really in that aspect. I think it's just kind of what felt natural when writing the song, and we felt those were good spots for that. I mean, we want to make you guys as claustrophobic as possible sometimes, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, I mean, if you find that, that's good because you need that breathing room in songs like these. I mean, fuck, these songs are super long compared to a lot of the other ones we've done.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The album at times feels unforgiving. Like it does
Yeah,
feel claustrophobic because of the thickness of the sound, how big the sound is, and how it comes at you. But those little pockets, they're not many, but there's just barely enough for you to kind of grasp or get a little bit of a gasp of air to just keep you
yeah.
alive until the next song comes around.
Yeah, I think that just goes like with the songwriting in general because you need those peaks and valleys and those claustrophobic spots and the places to breathe. Otherwise, it just becomes a little bit too much.
Yeah, then it's just a
Um,
big flunk.
yeah, I mean, which is fine sometimes. I mean, I listen to war metal, so it's like that doesn't leave you any room to do that kind of stuff. It's like I think with Wake and where we're kind of progressing now, I think that stuff is pretty crucial though.
I like the fact that you said where we're kind of progressing. I don't think you guys ever stop progressing. So like, I'm not even going to ask you where you're going to go next because I don't think you even know where you're going to go next.
Hey man, you know what? Other people have asked that, and I've said exactly what you just said. Like we have no idea. Every time we go into a record, we're like, okay, we start off with a certain kind of direction. We're like, hey, this is what we want it to sound like. And then once we get the skeleton of all the songs together, we're like, oh, okay, well, this went in a completely different direction than we expected. But then we embellish on it. Like we work on that, what like from whatever the skeleton is that we created.
So you guys start off with a vision board, and then halfway through it, you throw the vision board out of the door.
And just kind of go with wherever the music takes us. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you dive a little bit deeper into the concept of this album for those that haven't heard the record, so that they have an idea of what they're getting themselves into?
Yeah. So like lyrically, instead of writing about myself this time, I kind of went into left field and wrote a sort of non-linear science fiction story to go along with the music. It's I kind of described the plot as a character who is more or less me, who is at odds with waking life, and they find through the means of lucid dreaming, altered states, and meditation that there could be a little bit more out there. So they travel kind of beyond the doors of reality and find out, for better or worse, what's behind those doors.
Wow, there's a
Yeah,
lot there to unpack.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Was it interesting for you to take that kind of journey in terms of the lyrical content, really separating from what you were doing before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we first started writing this record, I got the demos from the guys, and I kind of started writing the same old stuff that I'd been writing before. And this was like in the middle of the pandemic. I just kind of felt like if I had to dwell on how terrible the world is at a time when the world is at its most terrible, like I don't know if I would make it out of the pandemic. And it just kind of started grating on me, and I wasn't in the best place myself mentally. So I kind of thought to myself, I was like, man, I need some escapism. Like I just need out of here kind of thing. So that's when the idea of this story came to mind. And so I brought it to the guys, and they're like, yeah, do whatever the hell you want. And I just started writing it, and every song ended up being a different chapter in the story.
Wow, really interesting approach. I think you're the
Yeah.
best person for me to ask this next question. How do you define an album as brutal, as being brutal?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's because I know Ryan had said like brutal is an adjective that we wanted to kind of question in extreme music. And it's hard because like this album, like it's brutal at times, but it's still very beautiful at the same time. So it's like this juxtaposition of sounds that are always happening.
I found that you guys were able to create an album that's brutal throughout, but even in
Mhm.
the moments where, like I said, there's some self-reflection, there's some clarity, the
Yeah.
beauty in those moments somehow feels brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that you can get that from it because the one thing, especially with what Wake is trying to do, I mean, we want it to sound beautiful without it sounding like too emo or too soft. We still want it to live within that realm of extreme music. Uh, and yeah, it's cool that you can hear that and not be like, oh, you guys go from brutal death to some stupid emo shit or something.
No, I didn't get that at all. I didn't get that at all.
Well, too, and like we had the inclusion of the first time we had some clean vocals done by our bass player Ryan. Those are very in the background though, like they're not really up front, and it kind of adds to that
The
ethereal sound of the record.
Yeah, yeah. it almost felt to me like you guys are trying to create 50 Shades of Brutal.
Yeah.
Is
Did
that
we
what
get there?
is that what's happening with Wake on this record, 50 Shades of Brutal?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with it. Let's do it. Yeah. We're going for 55 Shades though next one.
If there's a band that can pull it off, it's definitely you guys. I mean, I think, put that on the vision board and let's tackle that on the next record for sure.
Yeah, totally.
You mentioned a little bit of a vision board when it comes to making an album. Do you create a vision board as far as your vocals are concerned when you start to think about what the next record is going to be like?
Not really. I mean, I just kind of like whatever sounds good when I start writing is just what I think sounds good, and that's what I work on when we start practicing the songs. Yeah, there's nothing really in mind. It's like, okay, this sounds like this would be like a high, this would be like a low or mid or whatever. It's just kind of whatever seems natural at the time.
The evolution of the band is undeniable. Do you feel like there's been an evolution of your vocal approach as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, totally. If you listen back to the first album I did with Wake False, I mean, it was all like kind of like yelly, kind of higher end. And then once we like Sowing the Seeds was the same. Misery Rights is when I started incorporating a lot more death metal vocal into the band, and then Devouring was the same sort of thing. And that's kind of, yeah, I think that's kind of been the style that I've carried over until this record. Yeah, I still try new things here and there.
Do you do any work in between albums? Like you hear something cool from somebody and you're like, you know what? Maybe that's something I can incorporate in my arsenal. Are you that kind of a vocalist?
Nah, not really. I mean, I don't know. I try not to take too much influence from other musicians because I don't want to bite people's styles, I just try to do me and like throw some new stuff in here and there. But I mean, who's to say the next album I might sound completely different.
Do you look at this record and see a song that gives you some nightmares, considering how perhaps difficult or challenging it was during the recording process?
No, there was no actual songs that gave me extra trouble. I would say by the end of the record, I was pretty burnt out feeling, and like listening to the last one, I'm like, yeah, I can hear myself struggling in a couple places here. Like, I'm definitely feeling it, but for the most part, like, no, I think they're all great.
They're all children of the same parents, I guess. That's the best.
Yeah, gotta love them all equally, man.
Even the ones that perhaps a little bit more difficult around the corners, they still all of your children.
Yeah, exactly.
I got one last question for you. You guys got the album coming out July 22nd. Where can fans see you next on the road?
We will be doing some shows at the end of July in Toronto, Quebec, and Montreal, and then in early August we'll be doing Calgary and Edmonton, and then we have some stuff getting finalized for, I believe, the beginning of September and maybe the end of August. Those are still getting finalized though, but there's like 5 or 6 dates as soon as the album comes out.
I know that I said that was my last question, but I have to throw another one there. Being Canadian, I'm from Toronto. I have to ask you this. How is the love for you guys when you guys play throughout Canada versus playing out?
It's awesome. Like, especially around Calgary, like this whole area, Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and then over on the east there, like, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec are absolutely fantastic, man. Vancouver, we haven't been there in quite a while, but I mean, they've always been good too. Canada's just great.
I thought you were gonna, for a minute there, I thought you were gonna throw Vancouver under the bus.
No. I mean, we haven't been there for so long. It's kind of shocking. It's taken us so long to come back.
Yeah, it is. I know you guys played in Toronto not that long ago. So there's going to be another show at the end of July, and that's something to look forward if you're on this part of the country. And
I can't remember the exact date, but it's between the 26th and the 29th.
All right. I'll make sure I'll put the dates out in the description of the video, so the folks on this side of the nation, they can go and check you guys out. It's always good to see Canadian bands doing great music. One last time and one last thing. Are you hoping for a Juno?
I'd love a Juno. Then I could actually show my parents I did something with this bullshit.
That would be the moment to shine. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You showing up to every family barbecue with that Juno in hand.
Oh, I'm sure they would have shirts with me printed on it, holding the damn thing.
Well, you know what? I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you guys. I mean, Arch Spire showed that an aggressive, brutal band can really, pull some strings and win a Juno. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Wake with
Yeah,
this
man.
phenomenal record.
I think with what they did was huge. I think that opened the door for a lot more of a lot more extreme bands to maybe even get nominated or win a Juno. I mean, in the grand scope of things, like, it doesn't really matter, but I think it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's always nice, you know what I mean? And I never
Yeah,
buy that whole thing that it's just nice to be nominated. Screw that. You want to win. You're there. You want to win it. You want to take it home so you can show it to your parents.
absolutely.
Well, Cal, thank you very much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the release, and I hope to see you guys on the road.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time out to talk to me, and take care.
Take care, man. All the best.
You too.